Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Unfiltered. Now, this week we're joined by a musician duo. It's Very Many Horses. Hi, guys. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
Before we get into your musician journey, I've just got a couple of get-to-know-you questions, if that's okay.
Shoot.
Right, so the first one is, if you could trade lives with a TV personality or a character for a day, who would it be and why?
All right, so it's going to be someone that can fly and go invisible, because those are my ultimate dreams. Because obviously, unachievable. So some kind of superhero. I'm going to say who can fly and go invisible. Don't know. That's a hard one. My superhero knowledge is maybe a bit rusty, but all right. Let's say instead. Oh, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go Human Torch because he can turn to fire and fly, and I wouldn't need the fire part really, but the flight part is pretty great. So I'm going to go Human Torch.
For me, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I've got two young kids, so I watch a lot of children's TV at the moment. But be watching Bluey quite a bit. It seems like quite a happy, magical world of dogs and shenanigans and adventures. So maybe Dad from Bluey. He's a pretty cool guy.
Perfect. The next one is, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, what food would it be?
A different version of this question is to me is like the death row meal question, and I think the answer is the same thing. Roti and curry. So my mum's family from Trinidad, and in Trinidad they have, it's like roti is like a flatbread, and then you put a curry inside it and you wrap it up in the flatbread and and it's amazing. You can have like lamb varieties, chicken varieties, curry, goat, mutton. I think I would go with roti and curry.
Yeah, Greg's option sounds good. I don't know. I think maybe it's a boring one, but I'd probably go with pizza. You can't really go wrong with pizza. You got, loads of different topics to choose from. Deep pan, thin and crispy. It's great. Who doesn't like
Options.
pizza?
Options.
So
yeah,
yeah,
options.
I'd go with pizza.
If you could speak to one species of animal, what species would you like to talk to?
You know what? I find birds really fascinating. There must be limitations as to why they don't branch out more. But I always think that if I was a bird, I would just fly everywhere, all around the world, visit amazing places, just collect loads of, air miles as a bird, just see all the good places. But they just stay around Thamesmead. I don't really understand. Do you know what I mean? So I would say a bird.
Yeah, I think for me, it's maybe contradictory to my first answer, but I might say cats, just because they always seem to be judging. They always seem to have some sort of ulterior motives. Do they like people? How do they see people? Are we their slaves? Yeah, do they feel empathy towards other animals? So many questions. So have love in their hearts. I don't know.
My friend asked me that the other day. My friend Gonzalo came around the other day watching football, and the cats came in the front room, and he said, I've never really had cats. I've never really been allowed cats. He was like, can they show love? I was like, yeah, they can show affection. You know when a cat likes you.
But or are they like sociopaths where they feign emotion? They've learned to mimic it to get what they want. I don't know.
Feline manipulation, maybe.
Yeah.
And the last one for this segment, because this podcast is obviously on YouTube and online, what's the most wildest or craziest thing you've seen online lately?
I've been sent a lot of videos of cats wrestling each other. I'm not sure how wild or crazy it is really, but it's paired with wrestling commentary. It's like RKO out of nowhere and things like that. And I quite appreciate that quite a lot. It's not really crazy, but it's the first thing that pops to my head when you ask me. Oh, another crazy thing is, I just saw before this call, I saw an Australian stand-up comedian lady who made a musical presentation / PowerPoint presentation of her actual real life interactions with somebody trying to get a bed frame from her for free on Facebook Marketplace. Doesn't sound that crazy, but it was crazy. Give it a Google.
That sounds pretty crazy to me. Yeah, I like that. I guess I might just say the news. The world seems pretty crazy at the moment. I mean, looking at I don't know, US politics, or I don't know what Kanye West is up to. Lots of crazy things happening in the world. So yeah, that's probably what I would vouch for. Uh, what is it? Reality is stranger than fiction sometimes.
Amen.
Like we said in the intro, you're a musical duo. How did you each get into music, and how did you guys come together?
Oh, in terms of my musical journey and like discovery and enlightenment and sort of involvement with music, it's been like literally like prenatal. Like I've just always been around music. There was really no escaping it in the household I grew up in. My dad is like a music obsessive. In fact, while we're speaking of that, it's worth mentioning that we do a podcast together where we discussed where our musical passion comes from. He and I, my dad and I, because without him, you don't get me, and without me, you don't get the stuff that makes the podcast possible. So it just all, goes back. But yeah, so my dad was obsessive from a young age, and that just carried over to me basically.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with what Greg's saying as well, because like I feel like everybody has that one friend who can tell you like good music recommendations, and like has their finger to the pulse. And like for me that's Greg's my sort of go-to music enthusiast. So yeah, but yeah, I guess for me, like in terms of getting into it seriously, I guess maybe when I was 15, kind of moved to the UK, started learning guitar. Um, One of the sixth formers I paid to teach me how to play guitar. He got me going with, power chords. I could learn to play Nirvana songs, and kind of all took off from there. So yeah, I guess that would be the beginnings for me.
Yeah, and so Wes and I got together years ago. Actually, we were in a band years ago before we were married and before we had children and everything else, and just a lifetime ago basically. And then life gets in the way as it does, and we just sort of focused on other stuff and really fell out of contact. And then eventually, over the years passed, and we just got back in touch via the internet. I think Wes sent me a message, or I think it might have been on LinkedIn or something. I can't even remember, but just found each other back. I found our way back, like paths that split and then reconvene. Yeah, so that was how that went.
And going back to your own musical journeys, what genre are you guys into? So I'm mainly into UK garage because that's when I was sort of a teenager. That was the 2000s, and that was really blowing up. I do like a bit of 80s. I do like a bit of not. So I like a bit of everything. But if someone asked to pin me down to something, it would be UK garage. What's your guys' go-to genres?
I mean, you said you like a bit of everything. I would say the same. I do like a bit of everything. I think I like lots of things, but to varying extents. Like I like like indie rock music is like my favorite. Hip hop I like a lot. I like electronica. I like folk. I like blues. I like little bits of like metal. I like little bits of emo. I like a lot. I dip my toe into a lot of stuff. Funny you should mention the UK garage thing. Actually, when this goes out, our new remix would have come out, which to me feels very UK garagey. You have to tell me what you think after the fact, but when my cousin Harry did it, Harry Hart, he did the remix for us, and to me, as soon as I heard it, because he grew up, he's in Australia now, but he grew up in Walthamstow, and you talked about the kind of the age you were when that was blowing up, and how how it influences you and informs what you do going forward. To me, I could hear the sound of London in what he did to our song, which I think is quite interesting, especially because he's, residing in Australia now. But yeah, so going back to your original question, a bit of everything.
I think for me, I guess similar. There's not a genre of music I don't like. I do, try to keep it broad, but I think, yeah, I mean, I listen to a lot of sort of indie rock. I enjoy. I like a lot of harder rock, or sort of hard rock slash metal, particularly sort of, yes, 90s metal and hard rock. I like electronic music, both sort of, I guess, commercial, but also, more out there stuff. Yeah, I guess that's you know, maybe most of my diet, and then, you know, other stuff that kind of comes and goes on the peripheries.
And if you was asked, what genre would you say Very Many Horses falls into?
That is a really hard question. And it sounds, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would say things like that, but actually, Wes and I were discussing just the other day, we were talking about the songs that are going to make up our album because we've got them narrowed down now. We just have to work on recording them, finishing them. And I said to him, "Oh, we've got quite a lot of variety in here there." And I remember him saying, "One might say almost too much variety. It's like it's really all over the place." So it's a hard question. I would say in terms of overarching themes musically throughout, I would say rock, just rock. But I mean, it's that doesn't, that doesn't go anywhere near explaining or justifying or doing justice to what it is that we do, which sounds a bit like I don't know. I don't want it to sound like I'm tooting my own horn or blowing my own trumpet, but it's just not one thing, right?
I would say if we're going to pick a broad blanket term, yeah, definitely rock. But like, yeah, as you say, there's like there is rock, there's indie, there's electronic stuff, there's like spoken word stuff, there's like gospel stuff, there's like folky stuff. So yeah, a few things kind of blended and mixed together. So yeah, but I think also it's so hard to like to have an objective view almost as well. Like you have to kind of step away as like a third person to like listen in to yeah, I feel like it's for me at least, it's hard to sort of like have that objective perception of what it's like. But yeah, rock I think is good.
Coming off subject a little bit, why do you think music resonates so well with people? Because music can pull emotions out of people, but what do you think it is about music that does that to people?
I can't remember who said it, but somebody once said that art should comfort the disturbed and disturb the comforted or comfortable. And I think it's just people. I think with art in any kind of way, shape, or form, I think it can offer people all manner of things depending on the person and what it is they feel like they need. So like a lot of people, like for example, like sad songs and sad playlists are like super popular, but it's like, why would you want to seek out something that is sad, that makes you sad? It obviously resonates with something in somebody and that particular combination of elements in terms of what they feel like they need and what they get. They just speak to each other. Same with like horror films. Like I never really understood people who are like mad into horror films. Like for me, it's like, why would you want to be scared? Like I don't want to be scared. Why would you want to be scared? But then it's like adrenaline. It's, I don't know, a rush. It's thrilling, I suppose, for people who like particularly dig horror films. So yeah, that's a really broad question, and I think it will vary from person to person to person. But I reckon that, yeah, I think in sort of the loosest terms, I think in the loosest terms, you can find whatever you need in art somewhere. Whatever you feel like you need, you can find it in some way, shape, or form in the arts. So I think that is probably the answer.
Back to your album, you're in the final stages. What's the process in making an album, and how do you collectively decide what goes on your album?
I think in terms of what the process is, I don't think, and maybe Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we really have a process because, I might come to the table with an idea, or Greg might come to the table with an idea, and then we sort of collaborate on it. We do a lot of stuff over the internet. So like I'll do a bit, send it to him, he'll add it, I'll add to that bit. And it's kind of like we're sort of writing, but also recording and producing. It's kind of everything's happening at the same time. Guess that's the joys with sort of bedroom producing and the internet and stuff. But yeah, I think it's like for me anyway, it feels like a very iterative process. Like we're just kind of piecing it together as we go.
I think that's very accurate. I think it's a lot of it is necessity. Like we both got busy lives, both got families, we live not close to each other. So of course, you have to find, if you want to work, you have to find ways to make things work. So we kind of had to be that way due to necessity. But I think you're right. It can kind of go in any order. in terms of Wes can start something or I can start something, or sometimes Wes brings to the table something that's almost fully finished, and then I can flesh it out, or vice versa. And in terms of the albums specifically that you've mentioned, Lee, I mean, at the minute we find it quite hard to find the time to do everything. So at the minute we're just sort of drawing a line under everything that we've sort of done, which I would call like we've used different phases over the last couple of years, haven't we, Wes, in terms of terminology? But I would say this first phase, the first part, pre Folkestone phase, I would say, all those songs that we worked on up until that point, we're going to kind of draw a line under them, and that will make our album out of that material. We have to be quite flexible because it's just, as I say, it's necessitated. Our situations necessitate that. But I just love that we're creating stuff, and that we found a way back to doing it together. Just the fact we can continue doing it together is just really fulfilling. In kind of whatever form it ends up taking, I'm just happy that we get to do it.
Obviously, like all friendships and work partnerships, whatever, there's going to be disagreements sometimes. How do you navigate through that, and how do you come together to make the product better?
Oh man, I just apologize profusely. There was a time when I because I don't know why, I don't know how it happens, but I just generally tend to take the reins more and just do more stuff. I think because Wes spends a lot of time making the music, because he's like the brains behind the engineering and the mastering and the mixing and the production. He does all the behind the scenes music stuff, so that takes up a lot of his time. So I find myself doing basically everything that isn't the music, whether it's promo or design or videos or social media or submissions for considerations for playlists or blogs and radio, all that stuff. I do all that stuff. So sometimes I do that stuff too much, and I say to Wes, "Oh look, I've got this thing," and he's like, "No," and I was like, "Oh no," and I feel really bad, and then I apologize profusely, and then Wes goes, "It's okay, just don't do it again," and then I try not to do it again.
Well, I think it's and to be fair to Greg, I'm sort of, I don't know, I've got two young kids. My life is pretty crazy at the moment, and Greg has kind of more free reign to kind of make the executive decisions when it comes to a lot of different elements. And I think also we sort of have we sort of know our areas of specialization. So I think Greg's brilliant. Like, obviously we do the music together, but Greg's brilliant with the artwork, with the promo stuff, setting this, calls like this up. I mean, he does, you say behind the scenes, but you do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, but in a different way. And then I guess for me, I do, focus a lot on the production side, and maybe I'll make executive decisions on that. But then, sometimes you'll be like, well, I like this, but I don't like that, and vice versa. So yeah, I think we sort of we divide and conquer in some ways as well. We kind of,
Absolutely
have lanes that we specialize in.
our album that
Divide and conquer. Yeah, I like it.
And I think that's good because obviously I do this solo, and it's hard sometimes because, like you were saying earlier, Greg, you then sort of get stuck in your own perspective of what it should be. So to have each other must be really good, because then someone can bring something different to the table, and you might sit back and think, actually, I didn't think of it that way.
Absolutely. Another pair of eyes is always useful, especially another pair of eyes that you know that you value. It's not just any old Tom, Dick, or Harry. It's it's Wes or it's Greg. And I mean, what Wes thinks about anything is just as important as what I think about anything, and that's the whole. We're a duo, so.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think we can be pretty honest with each other. Like, you'll tell me if something I do isn't working, and I'll do the same. I'll give my opinion, and we're sort of try not to be butthurt about it. Well, I'll cry. I'll go into the bathroom and cry for a few minutes if Greg doesn't like one of my ideas, but then I don't let him know that. So yeah,
keep it to yourself.
Exactly.
And what's the plan moving forward? What's the hope to come out of all this? Because as you said, you've been going for a couple of years, but what's the big overall plan?
I mean, I think our realistic goal is to finish the album this year, I would say. I don't think that's too ambitious. But I mean, as Wes said, like, I mean, obviously we both got a lot on, but Wes has got two like really small kids, and so he's just moved house, and like he's got a lot on his plate, and we both have. But basically, I've got a lot of other things that I do separately. I'm just basically ready when he's ready, but I don't want him to rush. I don't, we need to just take our time to get what we need to be. But I think the realistic goal is album finished by the end of the year. And then I think we're just gonna have a little. I think we'll come back around to it when we can. I think
that was our first. I think when we first started, I guess, chatting to sort of reunite, the goal was the album. We kind of said it wasn't even much of a conversation. We're like, should we make an album? And we're both like, yep, let's do it.
Yep,
and
let's
then
make an album.
It's taken us longer than probably we would have wanted to, but life gets in the way and whatnot. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think, yeah, the world is kind of our oyster in terms of what we want to do. And yeah, I think, obviously we'll keep making music and keep evolving and putting ourselves out there. And yeah, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, I think we've kind of discussed things as well, like, I don't know how this would work, but like doing, even music in a sort of more live setting. But again, I have no, I cannot fathom how that can work at the moment. But I'm sure we can figure it out as we go along.
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely, but obviously we have I think we have quite a few like 1 day plans. Well, not plans, but 1 day ideas, and it's just a matter of working out when we can do that. To me, it's not even how, like, we know enough talented people to put a band together to play our songs. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's only two of us, so recording is obviously there's lots of parts, and we do all of it. But if we were replicating it live, we would need lots of musicians. But we know enough people to make that happen. But it's just a matter of like in terms of logistics and like spare time and other commitments. It's just like a 1 day thing. Yeah. Maybe we can do like a 10-year reunion tour in 10 years time, like 8 years time.
And obviously you're self-promoting, self-producing, everything. You're not sort of under a label. And that's the way it seems like a lot of artists are going, because it's obviously more freedom and stuff. But what advice would you give to people? Because you're 2 years down your journey already. What advice would you give to people wanting to start that route?
So I was talking to, again, I mentioned Harry, my cousin, earlier. I was talking to him about this the other day, and he said to me, "Oh, it's great that you found all these amazing like creative outlets, recently in the last couple of years." And I said, "Yeah." So the key is just doing things myself. Like there's a rapper slash spoken word artist slash podcaster, successful podcaster now called Scroobius Pip. You might have heard of him. You're a podcast guy. And he said, if there is no scene, make your scene, make your own scene. So basically just doing your own stuff, really. Another thing we've got coming up that I'm going to shamelessly plug is like next week we've got this. I've organised a gig. I've organised a gig at TACO, which is the Thamesmead Arts and Culture Office. They have a premises in Abbey Wood. Well, it's technically Thamesmead, I think, but it's an SE2 postcode. Anyway, Thamesmead, let's call it. And we're putting on an evening of improvised live electronic music, 3 different acts, and it's free. Come one, come all. And that wouldn't happen if I didn't just reach out and make it happen. And for me, like from Very Many Horses to that thing that's happening at TACO to Black Rainbow Collective, which is the artistic creative collective that I've started. All those things are just me doing stuff, reaching out to people whose work I admire, pooling this talent and trying to help each other create. So I would say to people who are just starting out, I would say, A, don't expect anything, because that's ridiculous to have expectations going in, and B, make stuff happen yourself.
I like that one. Just make it happen. And I think with technology and stuff, we have the tools and resources and everything at our hands to be able to do things like that, promoting, marketing, production, everything really. That you don't need anybody to do anything really to be a successful band. I think what I'd also add to that, to I guess young people starting out, is just like keep it fun. Don't make music for other people in mind. Make it for yourself. Do stuff that resonates with you. You know, make sure you enjoy it, because you may or may not make something out of it. But that shouldn't matter. If you love what you do, you just keep on doing it. So yeah, I'd say, do it for the love. Do it because you enjoy it.
No, 100%. Any sort of social media content I put out is exactly for me. If people are watching, great, fantastic. If not, I'm on an amazing journey meeting inspiring people. And that's my mindset to it. I think if I start chasing numbers or views, it wouldn't be organic content and that wouldn't be fair to the audience. So I love that attitude as well. Where can people find if they want to listen to your music or see your social media? Where are you at?
My music's on all of the DSPs, they call them. I'm going to have to remember what DSP means now. Digital service provider? Where's is it? Digital service provider?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Deezer. Do people use Deezer? I don't know. Anyway, everywhere, all those places. And in terms of social media, all the normal places.
On Facebook, we're not on TikTok.
What I must say, actually, while I'm here, and we, as We're Only Horses, are not on it, but I would say that I've had interactions with innumerable, wonderful, lovely people on Threads. I would wholeheartedly recommend Threads. It's much less toxic than Twitter. It's much less. There's much less vitriol, and it's just a more peaceful place. And there's so much talent on there. So much talent on Threads. I've come across so many new artists. Some that I'm lucky enough to be working with on there. It's wonderful. Really supportive community on Threads.
And what we'll do, we'll chuck the links in the description below so people can get to you quicker. Talking about social media, you've actually got some questions from your audience that, Greg, you're going to ask each other, really. So, Greg, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah, okay, fine. So, Wes, we were asked on Instagram, who are some of the artists that inspire the project? And that's, considering the amount of genres we talked about earlier, like that's probably quite a big answer, but I'll let you have a crack first, and then I'll think while you're talking.
Yeah, it's a good question. I guess maybe artists that just inspire me in general might have been an inspiration for me. So I don't know, a lot of sort of indie sort of rock alternative groups. I always sort of quote My Bloody Valentine as sort of a big influence, because I like sort of their multi-layered sounds, and I feel like that is in there somewhere in the mix. Yeah, and then also it's sort of electronic stuff as well. I don't think we're sort of too experimental, but I feel like maybe in terms of production, there's some of the electronic people I like in there, Aphex Twin, and people like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's sort of grungy, sort of heavy elements in our music as well. Folksy stuff. I don't know. It's difficult. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very broad, isn't it? I mean, I would probably think of it broken down into components. Like lyrically, I would say I'm heavily inspired by Conor Robust, by Pete Doherty, by the Beatles, Noel Gallagher as a songwriter. So yeah, like indie rock, I suppose. The National, another big one, Bon Iver. And then when it comes to the music side of things, like how things sound, yeah, the things you touched on, plus I would say elements of bands like Radiohead, because they're quite adventurous and they cover lots of different ground.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't really know. The Smiths, sometimes I have Johnny Marr in my mind when I'm writing riffs. Death Cab for Cutie is another big one for me. So yeah, a lot of indie rock inspiration, considering how varied the sounds that come out are. That's quite interesting, considering that all the inputs that we've been able to name between us have been basically almost all like indie rock. That's quite interesting. I was surprised you didn't say anything about Smashing Pumpkins, Wes, I've got to say.
As you were talking, I did think that as well, and then I also thought Radiohead as well. So I agree with you. Yeah.
Also, Dinosaur Jr. Like I'm always like I always find myself encroaching on like J Mascis guitar tones, and I always try and consciously change it. So I was like, I don't want every time I play the guitar, I don't want it to sound like J Mascis guitar. So I'm trying to copy him, so I always try and change it. But it's a big influence. What can I say?
Well, you do have a J Mascis guitar as well.
I do have
so.
a J Mascis signature model. I do. You're right. It's not my fault. It's the guitar's fault.
Exactly.
Jack White. I don't know say anything about Jack White. Jack White is a massive inspiration for me, musically, as opposed to lyrically. This is probably more one for me than you, but I'm going to ask you anyway. How did you come up with your band name? Somebody has asked us. You might remember. I remember, but you might remember as well.
Yeah, I think there were a bunch of names and suggestions that were floated, and it was a hybrid of other names, is what I seem to remember, right?
Yeah, exactly that. Because I sometimes sign off things, very many thanks. And that was one of the, I don't know why I say that, but that was one of the short list. And then there was another one, and that name ended in Horses. I'm not sure what it was. It might have been the Dead Horses, which I've since found out is another band. Anyway, and we just smushed those together, very many horses. So now you know, whoever asked that question, now you know.
Just before we wrap up, I've got a couple of would you rather questions. So it's only 3. So the first one is, would you rather have no sense of smell or no sense of taste?
Oh man, I think that your sense of smell affects your sense of taste. I think that's a bit of a trick question, Lee. I think they're trying to pull one over on me. In terms of senses, like food is up there. So I would say no sense of smell, and then you can't smell stinky, horrible things either. But yeah, I mean, I once did this is a slight diversion, but a digression. I was once at an event where they were demonstrating about senses and stuff, and they gave everybody a basil leaf, but you had to like hold your nose before you ate it, and you eat it, and you didn't know what it was, and then when you let go, it was like, oh, it's basil, clearly, but because it's so distinctive. But when you take out the sense of smell, didn't know what it was. So yeah, I'm sure there's definitely some credence to the connection between sense of smell and taste. But so I think you are trying to trick me, but I will say lose the sense of smell.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with Greg. If you could taste without being able to smell, then yes, I would choose taste. Although the interesting thing about smell is that apparently it's very closely linked to memory. So if you smell something that you associate with a memory, it resonates very strongly. Something I read. But yeah, food is great. So yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
Would you rather speak in rhymes or speak in riddles?
I think rhymes. I think as a songwriter that might be quite useful because oftentimes we wish to rhyme. So yeah, I'm gonna go rhymes. Although riddles could be fun too, but I'm gonna go rhymes.
Yeah, I think if you constantly spoke in riddles, you would annoy the fuck out of everybody
It'd be
you met.
quite
So
annoying. I think it would be quite annoying.
you'd be super. Yeah, yeah. You wouldn't have many friends. Like, do you want to go to the pub? I don't know. Riddle me this. It's like, yeah, no, it's all right.
No, I
So,
totally
yeah, I
agree with
think-
that.
Right, yeah, and if you're good at rhymes, you could be a successful, rapper or something. If you're really good at it, you got a career there. So, yeah, definitely, or a poet.
Yeah.
100%. And the last one is, would you rather see how the world started or see how the world ends?
Oh man. I mean, I think seeing how the world ends would be pretty bleak and kind of tragic and just a massive downer. And seeing how the world began would be just really enlightening and be like, okay, and illuminating. So I'm gonna go with that one, seeing how the world began. Although I don't know, there's obviously advantages to seeing. I mean, if the world's ending, this what are you gonna do with that? Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Let's go with that. Seeing how the world begins.
I'll go with see how the world ends. Just morbid curiosity, because I'd want to know, like, is it AI taking over the world? Is it like some sort of nuclear disaster? Is it, I don't know, like, I would just be very, very curious.
Donald Trump having a hissy fit.
It could be, yeah, and also, you know, when is it? Could it be next year? Is it going to be in
Next week.
100 years? Exactly. So, but yeah, I think, yeah, morbid curiosity, you know, has the better of me. So yeah, how the world ends.
Well, guys, this has been a great conversation, and thank you for your time. And any time you want to come back on, you're more than welcome. But just before we go, I've got one last question, and this question I ask every guest. If you could be remembered for one word and one word only, what would it be and why?
One word. I think dedicated.
Nice.
Because I think everything I do that I'm dedicated to. I'm not necessarily as good at each thing that I do. Like I do certain things better than others, but I will always like I'll always try and like commit myself to doing the best I can. I think obviously some people might beg to differ, but I would say dedicated.
I'd probably, it's a tough one. Maybe I'd go for guitar because yeah, you know, in addition to what I do with Greg, I'm really like passionate about making guitars and stuff. So, you know, and I'd like to you know, see my legacy as you know, leaving behind some sort of guitar business that's become successful and thriving. And you know, then maybe the cool kids in the future will be playing guitars that I've made. So yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Well, thank you both again for your time, and good luck with everything in the future.
Thank you for having us on.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Lee. Yeah, nice to meet you.